Hi, welcome to Bright Ideas. I am Jessica Duemig, the host of the podcast, and I'm here with VP for Athletics at University of South Florida, Michael Kelly. Hi, Michael.
Hey Jessica, thanks so much for having me today.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. We're going to talk about some really cool topics here. You and I go way back since you came back to USF, but I want to talk to you about your background because you have a very robust background, very diverse background. But from my understanding, you're a game pres kind of guy.
That's true. That's true. That's why we get along so well. We've always had
I
a great love for game presentation for sure. So,
absolutely that's the important stuff, right?
Mhm. Well, a lot of my background and route to this chair has been somewhat unorthodox for what normally sits in this. And while I've been able to work at a university before, both here at USF and at Wake Forest, here at USF more on the external side. Over at Wake Forest, I was director of operations facilities. I worked in a conference office, which was good. Was able to serve as the chief operating officer for the college football playoff when we were getting that started, and a lot of that had game presentation together because that was certainly trying to create an iconic event from scratch. But really, a lot of my journey in between, in the middle of my career, was serving as president for three different Super Bowl committees in Tampa, Jacksonville, Miami, and then also the Final Four that was held here in St. Petersburg back in 1999, and getting a chance to work alongside the NCAA and the NFL, putting on some of the most iconic events here. Kind of learned a lot from it. I loved the whole project management behind mega events like that and the experience that it creates. And then, so everywhere I've been, whether it's been at the ACC, CFP, and certainly now here at USF, trying to find a way to work with people that put on the best game presentation possible. Because when it's all said and done, I think we're in the memory making business, and that's for the student athletes, that's for our coaches and staff, but it's also for our fans and supporters that get a chance to experience us day in and day out here at USF. And so it's a lot of fun. It's always great to kind of learn every event you go to. You're looking at how can we incorporate that into the experience. But that's what's always attracted me as a fan as a young boy, and kind of led into my career now.
So how did you actually get started? Like what made you decide, okay, I have to pick a major, let me go into sports eventually?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, and I went to undergraduate school at Wake Forest, and I was doing political science there, and kind of had a vision to go to law school. I was just kind of going a law slash government kind of route. And at that time, I graduated from undergraduate school in 1992. And about that time, I mean, there were certainly sports, but I mean, it was just starting, the sports management industry was just starting to get more professionalized and more focused. And there weren't a whole lot of graduate programs that were out there then, but there was a handful. And I ended up deciding to, instead of going to law school, to say, hey, I would love to apply this to a sports career if this is a real thing. And then I went down
Yeah.
to St. Thomas University in Miami, and there was probably one of just a small handful, like I said, of sports management schools, and it really got me into it. And the very first day I moved to Miami, I drove down there first week of January in 1993. I went straight to what was then Joe Robbie Stadium, and even before I went to my apartment down there, and I walked into the lobby there and said, "What can I do?" This is the Florida Marlins' inaugural year, and they threw me into a closet with a couple yellow legal pads and told me to start calling people and selling tickets. And I've been involved in sports ever since.
Oh my God. I did not know that. I was actually at the inaugural game for the Marlins as
You were?
I'm a
Well,
South
to
Florida
your point on game
girl.
presentation, that was my first day. I mean, as an intern there, that opening day, my job, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever, was to be the person that kind of kind of put the hand on the shoulder of the Dodgers and sent them out. And I remember being petrified because it was the first day, and all the players were out in the outfield and running around. There's like 1 minute, I'm so serious as the first day on the job ever, and nervous that I'm going to mess this thing up. And I literally went up to Tommy Lasorda in a panic, saying, "Hey, we got to get him over here because the game." So he's like, "Well," of course they were like, "Nothing's wrong," and he just whistled, and they all came in, and I got to make sure the Dodgers got introduced on time. So it was a big, but I'll never forget that day. How nervous I was. They weren't going to pull it off the right way.
That is, knowing what I know now about game presentation and more specifically game presentation in baseball,
Mhm.
that's like the funniest story ever because game presentation in baseball is maybe some of the most lax I've ever seen in my
Oh,
life.
I was amazed. I was trying to take it in the moment. I certainly knew that Tommy Lasorda and Daryl Strawberry and everybody be very relaxed, but they were just, it was another day for them, but it was like the biggest moment in my career at the moment.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So it was a lot of fun, a lot of fun.
It's so cool to hear stories like that, especially coming from you now that we've talked about CFP and Super Bowls and massive universities. You have a really good intern program at South Florida. I've gotten the opportunity to work with a ton of them, and some of them are phenomenal, some of them are good, but there are no bad interns there. And there are not a lot of places that can say that. So kudos to you and your team there. I've gotten to work with a lot of them, and I started there. I mean, I was an intern back in 2005 as a sports marketing assistant.
Mm.
This was after your first tenure there, but
Well, thank
that's
you for
how,
saying that. I mean, I felt
yeah.
that, you know, I was grateful for all the chances I had as a student and a graduate student. And when we got here, there was already a good program, but knowing that being able to students that want experience, certainly even University of Tampa students that come up to be a part of our program is very helpful. And then when our graduate program with the Vinnick School of Sport and Entertainment Management has one of the finest programs in the world. So the combination of all these three students, and I mean everything from our recruiting operations to obviously marketing and game presentation, event management, all over the place. We've got dozens of students from the Tampa Bay area supporting us, and it's a great program, great experience for them, and it helps us put on, I think, a really high quality event here for all the different sports we serve here at USF.
Yeah, and there's 21 sports as of this spring, right? We just added
Mhm.
lacrosse, which was super exciting. And beach volleyball coming soon. That's another massive undertaking. What does it take to launch a sport at a Division One group of five gigantic university? How does that come together?
Yeah, it takes a lot of support from a lot of people and people that buy into a vision. And when I got here, knowing that it would be appropriate for us to add more opportunities for women, as you probably know, the student body here at USF as a whole is creeping up toward 56, 57% female. And when you look at that, you're supposed to try to balance out proportional opportunities in your sport offerings and your student activities offerings. And so it seemed only appropriate we would look that way, and then we kind of did an analysis for after my first or second year here to see, hey, what sports could we add? And then when we picked the two that you mentioned, I mean, lacrosse is growing so much here scholastically in the state of Florida. It's the fastest growing sport across the country, and we knew with an AAU institution and Division One program to be able not only to take the best out of Florida, but to also attract young women from New England and Mid Atlantic and others that where lacrosse has been somewhat of a hotbed, and it's only good for the exposure for the university as well. And then beach, frankly, it just again another great growth area here. We have great club teams and youth teams here, and just we just felt that, man, it fits our brand as a great school here in Tampa Bay, and just knowing that it's something we should and can be very competitive quickly. And in both sports, we were able to attract great coaches in both Mindy and Pre that are just, I think, going to have a lot of success with their programs.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I was in the first class where flag football was brought into varsity level sport at a high school at a competitive level, and I was a quarterback back then. But the other option when they brought that again, Title IX and everything, was lacrosse, and I said, I'm not playing in a skirt. Give me football. If I knew then what I know now, I tell you what, I announced lacrosse, as you
Yeah,
obviously know, at South Florida. Man, I'm in love with that game. I actually looked it up. There are adult lacrosse leagues here in the Tampa Bay area. So,
there you go.
um,
You're the voice of the Bulls lacrosse team at the stadium, so you might as well get out there. So
I want to try it. I went to the kickoff that you guys did, which I thought was such a cool event where at the indoor practice facility, they had all of the lacrosse players, the coaches, and they walked through, they taught the game of lacrosse to people who probably have not been exposed. And that was super cool. I got to throw a lacrosse ball, which was so exhilarating. I fell in love with it then and there. If you haven't checked it out, go see a lacrosse match, do it at USF.
I'm
That
glad you
team,
like it, and I've seen a lot of fans that have enjoyed it. I mean, it's as I said, I grew up in the DC area, and it's very popular up there, so it wasn't necessarily new to me to observe. But when we came down here. And like you, I've seen a lot of donors that have given it a try to check it out. Now they just love it to see the high paced game
Yeah.
and athleticism, and you can kind of understand it well if you're a basketball fan or even a soccer or hockey fan. So it all kind of fits in pretty nicely.
Yeah, it's funny. I love it, and I think any fan who checks it out is gonna love it too. And the team was phenomenal this year. I mean, they're in the tournament, right? They're in the American Athletic
Yeah, to make the
Conference
conference
tournament.
tournament in year one and to win double-digit victories, just a huge credit to our young women and certainly to Coach McCord and her staff. That doesn't happen in a first year of a program, and for them to be so successful and challenging for a conference championship. In the regular season, they came down to the last game with a recent national champion for that championship, and now they're in the semifinals for the conference, getting ready to start in a couple days. So really proud of how lacrosse has gotten launched here at USF.
Yeah, super cool. And like we said, beach is coming next spring, I believe,
Yeah,
spring
our
26.
team arrived for this semester, and I mean, this academic year, so they kind of had a year in residence, so to speak, and played a lot of exhibition matches. So yeah, it's been great to get that established. But yes, next February will be the launch and start of their actual intercollegiate play and conference in an actual varsity competition.
That is so cool. I was an announcer for the FIU Surf and Turf Invitational for years when I was down in South Florida, and beach volleyball is fun to watch in
Oh,
person.
our
It's
fans are going to love it. The vibe is really cool, just like you'd expect. I mean,
yeah,
first of all, the endurance and the athleticism of the athletes is unbelievable. You think you're just kind of hitting the ball in the beach. It's far from, I mean, it's a lot to go through the points that they do. So it's great matches, great athleticism, but for the vibe of the fans, man, it's laid back, just like you'd want it to be. Really, a really cool vibe.
totally
There's
cool.
music going on. You bring your beach chair, you sit on the berm, whatever it is, but it's a really cool environment. I think people here are going to love it. I think our student body is going to love it. This is a place to go support our team.
Yeah, and we're expecting, obviously another winning season. I did some research prior to this. So in the American Athletic Conference this season, USF has been at least top three in men's and women's soccer, indoor volleyball, men's tennis, who's headed to the NCAA tournament, just saw that bid come through. Women's basketball, again, they went to the tournament. Baseball sitting at number two, softball sitting at number two. Lacrosse was up there in the top three
Number two,
again.
yeah.
Number two, going to the conference tournament, hopefully the NCAA. That's insane. I mean,
Yeah, we're really
we're
proud of our
certainly playing
team. This
into
is this is
Champa
the
Bay.
Yeah, and well, when you live in a place like this with the Champa Bay, it kind of gets you going. We had a really great year a couple of years ago, and we won a number of championships. But we worked really hard to not to succeed in football with the kind of year that they had last year to win their second straight bowl game, one of only 15 teams in the entire country to win back-to-back bowl games. So that's another great accomplishment. But yeah, we're putting a huge emphasis on competitive excellence with everything within our department. I think our coaches feed off each other, in a quasi competitive way, but more in a supportive way, just to really make sure Team USF is standing atop this league and making a name for themselves in the country. Because as you mentioned, even what you said, I mean, a lot of those teams are ranked in the national rankings too. I mean,
Right.
our track program, top 15 for sure. Our men's golf, probably top 25. Men's tennis, I think 24th right now. So many great accomplishments on the national level that we're all very proud of. And obviously, as you mentioned, our women's basketball program has flourished over the last decade or so under Coach Fernandez's leadership.
Yeah, it's so impressive. And then we're following suit, right? So we've got a new head coach 2 years ago with Alex Golish for football. Recruiting now this year, I did again, got to do my research. Overall ranked 61st nationally. For those of you playing along at home, there are 62 teams in the Power Four conferences. So
Mhm.
just throwing that out
136
there.
overall. Yeah.
Yep. Number one in the AAC for sure. Great commits straight out of high school, but then also out of the portal. Some really cool transfers that have now switched over to the bowl. Stadium's coming. I mean, what more could we ask for? Back-to-back bowls, like you said, great recruiting. I mean, we've got 3 more years, 3 more seasons in Raymond James Stadium. What do you need from the fans? Because that seems to be the only missing component. The ones we have that go are amazing, but what can we do?
Yeah, I just want our fans and our alums to continue to take pride in some of the success you just mentioned. It's been, we still have to take some solace in the fact that we're still a pretty young university and we've only played Division I football for 27 years now. So yeah, for a society nowadays where you want instantaneous success, it just doesn't necessarily happen that way. But when you can kind of see the positioning and the foundation of what's being set here at USF, with all the programs doing relatively well, all leading up to the top of their conference, which leads to national tournament appearances, to build some of the facilities that we have here. It truly is one of the finest athletic districts in the country, in my opinion. Already was really, really good. Adding that indoor practice facility a couple years ago was huge for all of our sports, but certainly particularly football. And now knowing that within 2 years from where we talk today, there's going to be a brand new both athletic center, if you will, that'll serve our athletes on a daily basis, but then the whole new on-campus stadium, which is going to be a huge injection of student life, school spirit, and then bring the Tampa Bay community and alums alike back to campus, which is really, really special. So lots of things to recruit to, a lot of things that are special, and we're fortunate to be on a roll. We live in a great place like Tampa Bay, the 11th largest media market, and then with the academic and research success to recently become an AAU institution just is amazing. And now to see the momentum that athletics is doing by performing well on the field and on the courts, but then now leading into this great facilities that truly will be second to none. So I can't wait to see people really enjoy this stadium and what it'll mean for the university as a whole.
And so when you're talking about, early on, obviously this did not just come out of thin air, this stadium plan and all that. When you were talking early on about what does this mean? What does this look like? What does this feel like for the fans, for the athletes, for all the different stakeholders, sponsors, and all that? What were the most important things about this stadium? We have an opportunity, I guess, to learn from everything that other stadium projects have done for better or worse, in locally and nationally. What went into this from that perspective, given your Game Pass background?
Well, it's been a just a unique opportunity and a very special opportunity to kind of start something from scratch. And what's unique about this stadium is that we're not leaving maybe a dilapidated old place that often is the cause for building a new stadium. And there's only been, I don't know, 8 to 10 stadiums probably built on the college level in this century so far. But usually like Baylor comes to mind, like their stadium was like 100 years old, falling apart. So they had to do something different. In our case, when you're in a pro market and you're in a place that's already very special, you can't shirk having a quality experience. So we got to make sure that the seating's right and the premium opportunities that exist and that's a comfortable experience. So that's one thing we had to make sure of. And then because you're serving not only a campus community of young students, but also again, a sport-rich Tampa Bay community, we did a lot of time on surveys. We had two different feasibility studies during the process. We had a number of different focus groups with students, with fans, with season ticket holders, with anyone. At least, not that everything they say is going to be able to be accommodated, of course not, but most of what you just get a good feel of being informed by those that want us the most. And I think we've got a great combination coming up of awesome premium experiences in the stadium itself, a really well designed and thought out student section that's supposed special for them, exclusive to them, that kind of has some areas where you got the lower rows where the beef studs will want to be. You got kind of the standing rail, kind of European soccer kind of deal where some folks are going to want to be. And then you got benches where people kind of just roll in when they want to. So we're really trying to do everything we can to make it, something special for everyone. And again, having a chance to be by USF and for USF is really, really special. And just to be right sized, to have green chairs instead of red chairs. I mean, it's just a lot to have an iconic in the middle of the student section instead of a pirate ship. And again, I say that with all things with an awesome stadium that we're grateful for, but this is going to be about USF and it's really special. And I think people want that, and it was time, and it's the right time in our evolution to have one.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I can't wait to see how it all comes together. Obviously, I geek out over stuff like that from what are we going to do with signage and how are we going to activate in the stadium? But I am one of the
Well, even
crazy
beyond the
few.
stadium, what our fans are and our community is going to learn and be excited about is it's the whole way it activates the whole campus on a college. And I know many of your listeners, I'm sure, have been to college games all over the country, but it'll be a first for USF to really fully activate the whole campus. And that's what's it takes a little education for, all the colleges here at the university need to realize like, hey, it's not just a reception you might be able to do and have a tailgate party at the Raymond James Stadium parking lot. It's like, no, you should activate the College of Education every game day and invite your alums back and have a lecture and have the tailgate over here. And how do we kind of bring the whole thing together that just becomes this experience that many, many schools have had. And it's just kind of our time to do that. It's just going to make what's already a great university that much better to have that many type of touch points and activation points. So you're right. It's not just activating the game and having a great experience there. It's like, how does the whole athletics district, how does the whole university kind of feed an amazing game day experience from dusk till dawn?
Yeah, and it's super cool. A lot of USF students, now that we're in this generation where students now, their parents and possibly their grandparents went to USF, where that's been, that's a matriculation. We're only since 1956 as a university itself. So it's really interesting that way. I went to grad school at Southern Miss, and when I was at USF, I was like, no, 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 it's great playing at the stadium. I was in the band. It was easy for me. I never had to think about how to get there, how to get home, whatever.
Mhm.
But when I went to Southern Miss and walked under the stadium to class and saw game day, I was like, oh, okay, I
Yeah.
get it now, and I went back last year for the USF Southern Miss game, and I was like, wow, I can't wait for our on campus stadium. It's just such a different world. But on that note, how do you go about activating the campus? How do you educate? What is put in place, or what is the plan to get that information and that excitement
Yeah,
disseminated
well,
over a pretty large campus?
yeah, as we talked this week, I mean, this process has been in motion for almost 3 years now to even get us to the point now where we're getting ready to, start construction in earnest. Things have been going on for the last month or two on the site prep. We know we'll be, ready by the end of spring 2027 with the building being done, and then we're able to kind of get ready for the actual facility to be ready for our first game in September of 2027. Gives us 2 years before that to, hey, what's the parking going to be like? How do you segment who gets to park where? How do you work? And we've been able to speak with the faculty senate. We'll have to do a whole lot more of that. How do we get to all the different deans, which we have been able to do through the President's University Leadership Council, and just start right now. It's been more about just kind of getting it on their horizon to realize that this is going to be different, and to try to inspire them to say, hey, this isn't just something that's like all about athletics. This is something like, well, how do you use that to your advantage at the College of Engineering, at the College of Business, the College of Education? Certainly the arts and sciences are already going to be a big part of it with our dance teams and our band and everything else that's already thoroughly involved in the overall presentation at the College of the Arts. But again, it's just you hope with the continued success we have with Coach Golish having back-to-back bowl win seasons, with all the sports kind of rattling off the success that you said, the school pride you can sense is building, and then now that the stadium's coming, hey, it's a chance for everyone to kind of figure out. Athletics will be the coordinator and the glue, and we'll certainly put on the game itself, like but it's really how can we help coordinate the rest of the campus to help do it, add to it. And I think that's what people will quickly realize and make it that much more special on a game day.
Yeah, I can't wait. I think we're in for a fantastic kind of just next couple of years. I think it's going to be really cool to watch the evolution of this. I mean, I know I follow a lot of the Twitter pundits and everybody, and there are crane sightings, and everyone's getting excited. Everyone is so ready to see, how it literally comes out of the ground. And then, as you said, as we start getting the excitement going even more so across campus, super, super cool kind of process. When you came to USF, came back to USF, I should say, was this on your horizon already? Like, were you thinking, okay, here's my top three things I still want to do? Or, was this on your horizon? Was this a glimmer in your eye when you came back to USF?
Big thing. A lot of things we've talked about are things that we all kind of wanted to accomplish in time, and it was, certainly I felt my responsibility to help kind of survey it, prioritize what needed to be done first, and then try to get the kind of support both from donors and certainly from the university itself to be able to move things forward. So a lot of it was kind of assessing the sport programs. Where did we need to be? Where could we add more into the budgets themselves for and how could we garner support to make sure, because I didn't think we didn't have the nutrition programs we needed to have. There were some facility improvements we needed to do. We probably needed to enhance the size of our academic support staff, our mental health staff, physical health staff. So finding out from all the coaches and all the different department heads, hey, what do we need to do to keep bolstering that? So I think that was the first thing, was just getting us to be the part and look the part in terms of what our athletes needed to be successful. Then you kind of looked at a more long-term plan as it related to the sports that we talked about, and figuring out, is there others to add to our portfolio, which we were able to do with, as you mentioned, with lacrosse and beach volleyball. And then it was really figuring out the right game plan. There have been some awesome facilities that have been built here since I had left back in the early 2000s. But then to come back and see what had been done and still seeing what we needed to get done. And that's where this indoor, and now ultimately the TGH Center for Athletics Excellence, and ultimately the stadium, are all things that really round out our real estate incredibly well. The reason I kind of said it's one of the best, I think, districts in all of college sports, because, as you said, we are relatively young. We're able to still control the real estate with an extent, because schools like that are older than us that ran out of real estate often build new facilities maybe a mile or two away, and that kind of takes away from from the athletic district feel. And for us, we've been so fortunate to be able to have that. So I can't wait to see when the stadium, and then how that rounds out with where we already are. The heartbeat of our center is the Leroy Selman Athletics Center, and moving the tennis courts here soon and coming up in the next couple of years is just going to create, again, a really, really special place.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes I'm going back to some of the interns that I talk to when I'm in the baseball or the softball facility, and I say, well, I was here back when softball was over there, and they're like, okay, cool story, grandma. Like
Shoot, I feel like that all the time. Like I said, my office was in the phys ed building. I would go talk to Coach Levitt, literally in a trailer that was on what now is our baseball stadium. And you're right, Ken Erickson was coaching in a what probably wouldn't suffice as a little league field nowadays under standards. So I mean, it's just amazing to see the growth and the way people have grown. And again, even at the time I was gone, the renovations to the Yangling Center, the beautiful baseball softball complex, Corbett Stadium itself, were all extremely well done. And of course, the Selman Center was. But it was still time to come in here and say, hey, what improvements do we need to make to those facilities? Because they're pushing 20 years old at this point. And then what new things do we need? And that indoor was a huge, huge deal, because once we got here and knew we wanted to do it and set the vision for it, we had to raise, over $22 million to do it. And then we needed it for the training, and we needed it for the safety and for the health of the student athletes, but it's also become just a great social center for us. And it's helped recruiting a lot to be able to host so many people at one time for all sports, but certainly for football. Before, hey, if you couldn't fit them into the lobby of the Selman, we really couldn't do a very effective thing. And now to see what Coach Golish and his team do with hundreds of prospects coming in on any given camp or other things, it just has helped bolster, our the vision of USF that much more. And as you said, the proof's already there, in that our recruiting classes have reached the top of the American very quickly.
Yeah, and it's cool because, like you were saying, it's a social center. I mentioned earlier we had that lacrosse event, but the band also practices there during football season. I think they have one night in there, and so it's really nice to see that it's not just about football. Of course, football is going to drive it a lot, but it's nice to see that that's an option in Tampa, where we get the occasional rainstorm. It allows for
Rainstorms, the heat, everything.
yeah. It's great to see. So we've talked a lot about football, about lacrosse, and all the other sports. Let's talk about the new basketball coach. So Coach Hodgson, I think I'm saying that right, although I was told there's a silent letter, but I'm not sure which one.
Just Hodgson. Not silent J.
There we go. So talk to us about recruiting him to USF. I mean, Tampa's a hotbed. We've talked about that, but what did it take? What sealed the deal on that one? That's a huge get.
Yeah, we were really pleased to be able to attract him. We were able to talk to a lot of awesome candidates that believed in the vision of USF Athletics that we've been talking about here. But when we were fortunate enough to have Amir join us a couple years ago, he was one that bought into the vision and kind of put his stamp on it to make it special. And he proved proof of concept to be able to do what he did with this program in a year, and to win a conference championship, the first time we'd ever done that in a regular season format. So that kind of turned on the rest of the world to realize, like, man, because when I was doing a search 3 years ago, it was like, can you succeed there? And now it's like, oh yeah, you can. And gosh, I want to be there. And so, what sold me on Coach Hodson is just again, I liked his grit, I liked his hardworking nature, his recruiting expertise is evident with what he'd done in past stops, both at Buffalo and at Alabama. But then most recently, when he had a chance to be a head coach for a couple of years at Arkansas State and had two of the winningest years in their program's history. So it just proved to me, and that's kind of what's worked for me, in my opinion, and worked for us because I've been looking for. I've had the chance to have 11 different head coaching searches since I've been here. And to really find ones like Eric Jenkins and Mitch Hannes and Mindy McCord and obviously Alex Golish, and now we talk Brian Hodson, and all of them kind of have the similar things like, hey, they've succeeded with less resources and they have a grit to them and they have a really great passion to adapt to the current, college sports industry, if you will, and they have abilities to find real, authentic relationships with their student athletes. Because it used to be you couldn't transfer, and whether you told a fib to a kid or not, maybe they're stuck with you, right? But now it's like, hey, they can leave you at any given moment, so you might as well be truthful and real about it from day one. Tell them what their style of play is going to be like. Tell them how much time you think he or she will have. You got to be real, and to have that ability is what I think all of our coaches currently have. And I'm just really proud of our head coaching roster from top to bottom to what that breeds. So when I was looking at Coach Hodson, I just felt he exuded all that. He really seemed excited about what we're doing here at the university, and I think he's just one that's putting the talent together and the staff together that's going to continue the kind of success we all enjoyed 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I love that you said, how important it is, how you brought up how important it is to be authentic. I think authentically USF is a big deal. Maybe a future campaign, that'd be great. But I love the concept because USF, there's no hiding behind anything at this university. Tampa's too big, right? There's too much success in the market. USF for a long time was a suitcase college. It's not that anymore, right? The students are here. Social media is allowing everyone to call BS whenever they feel like it, whether it's actually or not. So the authentic side of that, and you'll see it. I mean, you can't go to a press conference with Alex Golish, and if he is acting on any level, he deserves an Oscar. So maybe we add that one to the trophy case. But I mean, it's so impressive, and I think that really resonates with the athletes too, right? I mean, I haven't seen. I mean, if you take out like the 7th-year seniors or 6th-year seniors because of COVID or whatever, the transfer portal out of USF has not been anything to be talked about, really. I mean, there haven't been a ton of people exiting the university. There's a lot more of excitement coming in than going out for sure. And again, those who are at like a 6th or 7th year with COVID, I don't even count those because it's a whole other set of economics and whatnot. But let's talk about NIL for a second, right? So NIL, the transfer portal, profit sharing, the American is committed to a pretty significant dollar figure from the universities. The NCAA ruling, I don't even know if it's actually come down officially yet or whatever. How is USF handling the whole scenario? Because there is a collective, but there's also the internal NIL group. How does that all work together? How does it?
Yeah, it's very adaptive times, and that's where I think a lot of success that we've been talking about on this call has been because of the willingness of our university administration to listen and learn and support what we've been trying to lay out, and we're so grateful for it because you know I call it this era of permissiveness, if you will. In the last 5 to 10 years, it's been everything from being able to provide unlimited food to providing cost of attendance, to providing what's called the Alston Awards, which allows, up to $6,000 of academic incentive money, basically for good performance in the classroom. And then now you get to NIL, and then now you get to when you couldn't transfer before at all to now one that you can pretty much. There's almost probably too much, unlimited free agency. So we've just tried to be really adaptive with our administration and with our coaches to kind of say, how do we adapt to it? Tell us what you think you need. Let's see if we can adapt to it. We call it trying to establish a model athletic department for modern times. And I think we've just all been able to do that. And now, because all the success is a university and some of it in athletics, we're able to use that to kind of tell the story. And I think to your right, some people that don't know us well have been like, oh, commuter school 20 years ago, and it's good school, but blah blah blah. But now it's like, man, AAU, Champa Bay, winning championships left and right, being in the top two, three in every sport that we play, winning back-to-back bowl games, building new arenas, building new stadiums, building new sports. At a time when a lot of people are cutting back, like everyone's kind of like, man, USF is doing this, this, and this, and fits in with the president's message about being bold, right? President Law, she keeps, encouraging all of us to do that, and as does our board chair, Will Weatherford. So it's been really exciting to do that. So for us, we just keep trying to adapt and maximizing every new thing that the NCAA puts out that we're allowed to do. That we're doing it to the best of our ability, and that's what's happened with NIL. We tried to be kind of a leader in that regard in terms of establishing a dedicated department under the leadership of Andrew Warsaw for strictly looking at NIL opportunities. And most people haven't do that now, but we were one of the early ones. We have 4 or 5 people to do nothing but look at opportunities for our 520 student athletes to activate if they so choose in that space. And then now being able to prepare for what we think will happen with the impending house case settlement, which will allow, as you said, probably an increase in, we expect it'll allow us to provide more to our students in terms of more scholarships, because there used to be limits on how many scholarships we could give to certain sports. And so we think we're being very aggressive in there. And then now that you'll be able to share revenue to up to as much as $20 million with student athletes is something that we expect to do as fast as we can as well, certainly at the to help all of our teams be successful in that regard. So we've just been encouraged and supported by our administration to say, hey, tell us what you need, sharing that with our donors because we need their support to make it happen. And as we're just enjoying kind of swinging for the fences every day and trying to provide everything we can to our student athletes to be successful. And the proof will ultimately be in the pudding over these next couple of years. But the accolades you kind of rattled off on just this year alone make me feel good about our direction.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, it's refreshing to talk to you, and you and I chat here and there, but we certainly don't dive in for 45 minutes to an hour. But it's refreshing to talk to you when you say we get to do this. We get to do this. We have the opportunity, and it doesn't feel fake at all. I know you well enough to know that you mean that when you say it, and it's impressive because you hear a lot of athletic directors and coaches kind of complaining about some of the current status, but I mean it is the future, and I think it's changing whether we like it or not, right? So we may as well get on board early, and be that leader that you talk about. And it's nice also to have the academic side of the university kind of, it's one USF like you've talked about, and President Law, it's so sad that she's retiring because that be bold, it's so important, and it really does resonate across the campus. We can only hope that her successor continues that vision, and certainly no reason to think otherwise. But we've talked a
Well,
lot
it's just
about
exciting. It's just exciting that, yeah, you have to adapt. You said it well. I mean, it's changing, so you're not going to stop that. So you can't do everything. Everyone has to kind of adjust to and I've kind of always lived a philosophy of, from my business standpoint, it's like, hey, you got to play to your strengths, right? And so we've got so many strengths to play off of with our great city and our great environment and our institution that's taken off with great accolades academically and athletically. So much to showcase, and that's what you have to play off of. And I'm sure other people play off of what's to their strengths. But for us to do that and be able to provide our student athletes something special, because when we get a student athlete or a prospect, and whether it's transfer portal or a freshman nowadays, if you get it on campus here, you're like, man, who's got it better than us?
yeah,
Not
I
many.
mean, who doesn't want to come to beautiful Tampa Bay? I mean, the bougainvilleas at the front of campus are enough to make you want to just come for
Yeah,
the
it's beautiful.
picturesque and stay for everything else. So we've talked a lot about the sports side of it, right? The football, the lacrosse, all of it, the stadium and all that. Talk about the athletic department as a staff, right? Because there's a ton of people in that Leroy Selman Athletic Center, aside from coaches and sporting kind of groups that are really making the donuts, so to speak, right? So
Yeah.
you've brought in recently marketing, obviously filling some big shoes there, Bulls Club, NIL, you talked about with Andrew. How How do you recruit that talent? Because it's a young staff for the most part. There's very few people that have been there over 5 or 6 years. I think there's a few who have been there literally forever, but
Right.
how do you recruit that talent?
Well, since I got here 7 years ago, it took like I kind of went through the steps we thought we needed to assess, and part of that was how we kind of would grow, and eventually we were able to just people that bought into the same vision and the momentum that we had wanted to be a part of that, and to kind of look at some of our senior leadership right now in place is really, really strong. We've got Chris Pierce as our deputy AD, and she was a senior executive at the ACC and oversaw their Olympic sports. So who better to kind of oversee our Olympic sports and to be our senior women administrator to kind of come bring that concept to. I've hired Lalo Prado back when he had left, and someone had been here as a coach, but he's the perfect person and knowing people here in the marketplace to manage our overall athletic development arm, and just in terms of their leadership. Lee Butler coming again, and we used to run men's basketball at the ACC office, and I saw him as a young administrator, and he's been incredible to work with both a couple different things, not only our men's and women's basketball program in terms of as a sport administrator to give them the daily attention. That's something I wanted to make sure happened too. It's like I grew up playing basketball more than anything else, and wanting to make sure how can we truly solidify what I call Tampa Bay's home for hoops, and make sure, since we don't have an NBA team here, that's an opportunity for us to kind of seize the basketball fans here in Tampa Bay. And this, Jose's done that year in, year out. Obviously, Amir did that, and obviously we expect and are optimistic that Brian Hodson will do the same. So, I'm just mentioning a few of the leaders along the way, but I mean, everyone on our senior staff, we got some that are focused on building the stadiums and facilities with Jonathan Gibson and Ashley Lico, who kind of grew up through our department from as an intern and now is serving as our CFO. And again, just so many folks that are working really hard to make some special things happen. And then, but it's just it's really challenging everyone to star in their own role, but yet be really educated on everything that's happening. We encourage all of our staff. We've got probably over 200 of them to make sure they're up to current events in the sports industry. To how can they make suggestions on how we can adapt to becoming this model athletic department for modern times. But it all starts with the care of the 520 student athletes that we have. And everyone has to look at it from their own prism, right? Because if you're in academics, how do I help them there? If I'm in a nutrition, how do I help them there? If I'm a trainer, how do I help them there? So everyone's kind of consolidated their focus on, hey, star in my own role, put the focus on the student athletes. When you do that, it's going to kind of take, the winning will take care of itself. And, I do share with everybody the pyramid of success, and sometimes they laugh at me because it's kind of an old thing that, Coach Wooden did 60, 70 years ago, but it still applies, right? It's like taking care of so many different traits of excellence, qualities of excellence, that you need to kind of check yourself every day as an individual, and then hopefully check your teammates for the same. And, at the top of that pyramid, I was always attracted to it. It doesn't say win. It says basically competitive greatness. And it basically means at the moment of competitive greatness, did you perform to the best of your ability, and did you pour everything in the process you possibly could? And if you can answer that with a positive, usually winning takes care of itself, right? Usually that'll be enough. And it's my job to kind of try to inspire the folks to get together on that, and to hopefully provide the resources that ultimately on game day they'll do that. And every championship we love to see. We always kind of say building tradition one champion at a time. And I say that because as a relatively young institution, we now have, I think, 153 conference championships over that time frame, and that's really, really good. There's not a lot of schools that have that, but USF does, and we want to keep that growing and building.
Building tradition one champion at a time. I love that. I'm writing it down. That's why I keep looking down. That's fantastic. Yeah, that the staff there, I love working with them. From the outside coming in, it's always nice to know what you're walking into from a level of excellence, certainly. And again, like you said, between the Vinnick program and all the young staff that comes from that, over in the College of Business, and then all the opportunities that they're afforded. I mean, Tampa Bay just hosted the Final Four for women's basketball. That was fantastic. And there was a contingent of USF Athletics interns who were there, looked great, sounded great, represented well. It was so nice to be able to say, that's my alma mater. It's a bigger it's got those little tentacles that go out into the community and then even further outside into the sports world. So there is excellence coming, I think, at every level out of University of South Florida,
And that's a great
academics,
point. Like
athletics, otherwise.
the events that come here, Rob Higgins, who runs our sports commission here in Tampa Bay, is an alum, and Claire Lessinger, who's the kind of the deputy there, was a former volleyball coach here. So they care about us when they host college events. If at a D1 level, they need, our partnership is what kind of carries that through. So we love doing the women's volleyball Final Four a couple years ago, the women's basketball fourth time now. We'll be challenging for some other events here. We're working together on bringing the American women's and men's basketball tournament here in the next couple of years down the road. We're excited when the new stadium comes up. How can we potentially host? I can envision soccer championships being here, lacrosse championships being here, maybe the FCS football championship being here, high school championships for football and multiple sports being here. So we love playing a part of Team Tampa Bay, and again, it's because of that a USF connection with Rob and Claire that kind of helped make that come through as well.
Yeah, it's again, it's just so awesome to see. So we're wrapping up here a little bit. Let's talk about the next generation of sports athletics administrators, right, at every level. So you've seen it literally at the highest, in my opinion, with the Super Bowl, with CFP, obviously within the schools you've been at. What does it take for the next generation to be successful?
Well, I think it's the same things that make anyone successful in my eyes, and it takes, number one, to me, it's grit and a work ethic that's willing to do it. It's an attitude of one that certainly is one to be a great teammate and wants to, again, be a star in your own role, whatever that role might be. As I said, for me, it started off in a closet calling people to buy tickets for the Florida Marlins in 1993. But I did that to the best of my ability at that time, and it kind of led to another opportunity to another opportunity to opportunity. The best way to move forward is to make sure you become, again, a star in your own role and you master what opportunity you're provided at that time. Always looking for what else you can do to contribute to the team and to the organization. And if you do that, I think it kind of takes care of itself. So I usually kind of summarize all that and say, hey, be consistently conscientious. It sounds easy. It sounds something that everyone would do, but it's just not the case, and it's just something that if you take care of the things that you should do, if you're a great teammate, you're a teammate that other people like to work with. And again, if you don't know something or if you need to learn something, being conscientious doesn't mean you know everything. It means but you are a good enough teammate and employee or leader to be able to say, hey, I don't know, but I'll find out. I'll find out who else can help me do that. And to me, if everyone kind of takes that attitude to come to it, that's where good things happen to your career. So I know it's a very simplistic thing to say, but it's a kind of discipline that so few people, I think, really activate. And again, sometimes it means that you have to be a little bit patient, but as long as you're putting into the process and just being a great teammate ultimately leads to success both individually and as a team.
I love that. And that goes back to the John Wooden pyramid of success that you talked about, right? Like ultimately the winning, the matriculation in your career will take care of itself if you're building that foundation and then going to the next level by being conscientious and taking everything you can out of your environment before that next step maybe comes. And if that step comes sooner than you're maybe ready for, then taking it all at that next level and learning and continuing to grow. I think in this world of instant gratification with social media and everything, I like going back to, the basics, the tried and true, that pyramid of success, like that you said. And, Bright Ideas season 2, episode 1 features Alan Gooch, who's the executive director of the Cure Bowl. He quoted John Wooden's pyramid of success too. So
Really?
apparently I have to go read this book and study it up a little bit more. But I think it's really important to hammer that home that, it's really easy to get lost in everyone's accolades that they're posting on LinkedIn, right? And feel like you're falling behind maybe. But to your
Yeah,
point,
on a more holistic thing, I mean, you can kind of round it back to just like really being present where you are too, right? I mean, it still feeds the same thing I said. It's being conscientious, it's being a star in your own role, but don't be the person at a cocktail party or at a reception or something that's like looking over the corner of like who else they can go talk to. It's like, no, focus in whether it's 1 minute or 1 hour with the person that you're with and making the most of that at that time. I think the same thing with that job. I was like, hey, if I'm an intern at the Marlins, I'm going to be the best darn intern that I can be. And and learn from it and see what else I can go, and then we'll figure out next steps next. But that's what I love about the students and interns you talked about. It's like, hey, someone might say, "Oh, I want to work in, I got to work in football, or I don't want to do it." It's like, no, if you get assigned to as a college sophomore and you get to be the publicist for tennis, and maybe there's not as many people that are focused on that Olympic sport or whatever, but you treat them like the Yankees, right? And then it'll just because it's just showing your skills and your passion and your caring. And when people know that you care, they respect that, and that's when you really gain respect and trust, and things take off from there.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Michael Kelly, thank you so much for being on this episode of Bright Ideas. We're going to close it out now. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll put all these links and lots of different information in the write-up. And thank you so much.
Jessica, thank you, and thanks for all you do for USF Athletics.
Absolutely.